خب سخنران بعدی جناب آقای دکتر فرامرز حسنپور هستند. تشویق بفرمایید. آقای دکتر فرامرز حسنپور ایرانی هستند ولی از ملبورن اومدن. همطور که ما مهمون نوازیمون رو نشون دادیم برای سخنران خارجی، به جای 15 دقیقه 16 دقیقه میتونیم بگیم صحبت بفرمایند. تزشون، مطالعاتشون بیشتر روی اینجا رفتن، روی ارزش‌های فرهنگ ایران و فرهنگ ایرانیه که دقیقاً با این کنگره که بحثش از روی افق جدید معماری و شهرسازی، فکر میکنم صحبت‌های بسیار غنی و خوبی را و علمی برای ما داشته باشند. در خدمت.
ممنون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. In the name of God. Good morning all. I'm Faramaz Hasanpour from the University of Melbourne. Thank you for inviting me. The topic I'm going to talk about is inconsistent perception of early modern Iranian architecture. The assumption that politics and the Shah's attitudes in particular were responsible for the increasing use of pre-Islamic motifs during the first Pahlavi period is examined by studying the architectural taste of Shah and his palace buildings, and that of the government elite in government official buildings and in exhibition pavilions abroad, which were intended to symbolically express the government's desired image of Iran to the world. Parviz Rajabi attributes the architecture of this period to Reza Shah himself and assumes that the Shah was the creator of a revolutionary process in architecture in which traditional Iranian and European architecture were fused. Marifat also claims that Shah not only chose the architects for each project, but also put his personal stamp on their style of construction. Grigor, on the other hand, categorizes the train station in Tehran as pre-Islamic revival. Nonetheless, the modern Art Deco train station designed by an Ukrainian-born Polish employed architect in 1928 has no sign of any Achaemenid or Sassanid motifs, neither in its plan nor in its decorative details. What misled Grigor may have been the official sign of the Iranian railway organization on the facade, resembling an eagle, which is similar to the Farahabar, a Zoroastrian symbol. Statements by famous Iranian architects who were active during the Pahlavi era have misled architectural historians. Hushang Sehun, for example, claims that during the first Pahlavi period, German engineers had no role in design of buildings in Tehran, but only in railway stations and some bridges. In fact, a lot of little-known architects and engineers from Germany were active during the early Pahlavi period. For instance, an old photograph shows a German architect standing beside the medical faculty of Tehran University, which was under construction in 1931. A German company designed the Art Deco four-story Central Tobacco building in Tehran in 1937. The Imam Khomeini Hospital in Tehran is another important example, which was designed by a German architect, Koop. There are also a number of municipality and palace buildings in other cities that were designed by Germans in this period. The coincidence of the sophisticated reuse of Achaemenid and Sassanid motifs with the rise of the modern Iranian state under the Pahlavi government has led some architectural historians to conflate Iranian nationalism with early modern architectural tendencies in Iran during the third and fourth decades of the 20th century. Architectural style of Iranian pavilion in Brussels exhibition of 1935 is pre-Islamic in style and unique for the first Pahlavi period in its use of Achaemenid motifs. This seems to have been the only Iranian exhibition pavilion which was influenced by the national style. And in other pavilions of the Pahlavi period, there was no sign of pre-Islamic motifs. Therefore, just as within the country, extraterritorial Iranian architecture represents a mix of Irano-Islamic revival, eclectic, and pre-Islamic revival styles. Because these buildings were intended to display Iranian architecture, they were not of European styles. Although a variety of government buildings were designed in pre-Islamic revival styles, several significant buildings in Islamic revival, eclectic, and European styles were built during this period. And Reza Shah himself had most of his palaces built in European styles, according to the table. Apparently, Achaemenid motifs were never used in the first Pahlavi palatial buildings, and any suggestion of connection with the national style and the use of pre-Islamic motifs favored by the first Pahlavi is baseless. So the first Pahlavi was not responsible. One must ask who in the government would have promoted the national style and encouraged architects and decorators in the use of pre-Islamic architectural heritage. The answer can be found in this announcement in 1928, in which the Minister of Post and Telegraphs himself required that the style of the new post building be formally Iranian, yet including all modern facilities. The Minister Qasim Surur Israfil's patronage of Iranian architectural styles is consistent with his patriotic and nationalistic political life. The Society of National Heritage was also a politically powerful and architecturally influential group of nationalist officials. The architecture of three buildings built and commissioned by the Post Minister is used to elucidate whether there was a consistent architectural approach towards design and the use of Irano-Islamic motifs, or there was a promiscuous mixture of European and Iranian eclectic styles. The Post and Telegraphs building, built in Tehran in 1926, was designed in the spirit of late 19th century and early 20th century Beaux-Arts classicism. The resemblance of the colonnade of the second floor of the Post and Telegraphs buildings to that of the east front of the Louvre is remarkable. Markov developed a unique style mixing Islamic architectural elements like the Iranian pointed arch and pre-Islamic elements like Achaemenid capitals with European planning and facade design in the Post building in Tehran, in design between 1927 and 34. And this is Bissin building, 1940. The octagonal dome lantern above the Bissin building is similar to that of the Chiswick Villa, a neo-Palladian-style building designed by William Kent in the early 18th century in England. However, the dome lantern of the Bissin building, unlike that of Chiswick Villa, does not have the Titel cupola on top. Similar Titel cupolas were mainly used in many Renaissance-style buildings in European cities like Rome and Paris. There are several indications that Ebrahim Memarbashi was the architect. He was one of the traditional builders involved in a number of previous projects commissioned by the Ministry of Post and Telegraphs. Moreover, the eclectic Iranian-Islamic style of the building and the use of Qajar architectural elements strengthen the possible role of a traditional builder like Ebrahim. Adicula used in the Marmar Palace, which was built for Reza Shah in 1934 by Ebrahim Memarbashi, are quite similar to those of the Bissin mansion in their eclectic Islamic style. One of the first debates about the use of the national style took place in Architect, the first Iranian architectural magazine published from 1946. Vartan strongly criticized the use of decorative elements in any architectural design, illustrated his criticism with photographs of the police building built in the 1936 with its accompanying decorative details. This paper reflects the theoretical atmosphere of architecture in Iran in the 40s, which favored modernism. 1946 can be considered as the end of the national style when it was denounced in the Architect. A large number of Art Deco buildings in the Europe and the United States in the 20s and 30s and the 30s revived national symbolism and exotic ancient elements in their design. The Iranian national style, however, is unique and cannot be considered as an Iranian version of Art Deco. It did not contain any reference to machinery or industrial elements, nor significantly exploit modern technology and materials. The use of Achaemenid motifs in buildings was not novel,